Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Spigot series. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make a dead body plugin. Alright guys, I'm back. In the last episode, I showed you how to do NPCs using NMS, and I showed you how to do basic stuff like give the NPC skins, have them hold items, and wear armor. But now I want to take this opportunity to show you how to do some more advanced things with NPCs, so you can think of this as a NPCs part 2 video. So what I'm going to do is show you how to make it so that when a player dies on the server, a dead body spawns where they died, so it'll look like a NPC corpse type of thing. And along with that, I'll show you how to hide the name tag of the NPC, how to make it move, how to give the NPC a pose, like make them shift or sleep and stuff like that. And there's an NPC corpse tutorial already out there, but I want to make it better. I'm going to show you how to do more things and how to make it so that when the player dies, all of the items go to the NPC. And if you interact with that dead body NPC, then you'll get the items back. But if the NPC does not get touched after a certain period of time, all of the items will go back to the original player who died, and the NPC will go into the ground as if the body's rotting or some kind of cool little animation type of thing. So anyway, this should be fun, so let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do first is make a new listener here called Death Listener, because the first thing we have to do is make it so that when a player dies, an NPC spawns. And then with that, we're going to customize the NPC. So implements listener. Alright, so we're going to do an event handler, public void on player death. If I can type it, there we go. Player death event, E. And I forgot, one thing we need to do as well is make it so that we can use NMS in our project here. So I need to copy the pom.xml details to allow us to use NMS. If you're not familiar with that, by the way, then go ahead and watch my NMS tutorial or the last episode. So I'm just going to go to one of my example projects that uses NMS and just copy it over. So the code for this episode will be in the description below, so you can just copy it over yourself if you need to. So we'll copy that, and then we're going to get the plugin right here. Boom. There we go. So now we should have 1.17.1 NMS. So yeah, this is going to be like a fully fledged plugin. Did I say that correctly? Fully fledged? Yeah, so it's going to be called Bodied. I think that's a cool name. Like it's a term that young people use, Bodied. You know, I'm a boomer, but I know these things. I like to use TikTok. So yeah, when the player dies, a body is going to spawn in place of them. So what we need to do is create an NPC like we learned last episode how to do. So when they die, we'll get the player themselves that died. So player P from bucket is equal to e.getPlayer or getEntity, but that returns a player. And then we'll just send them a message so that we know this thing is working. We'll say, bruh, the point is not to die, ... And then from there, what I want to do is actually spawn the NPC. So it's gonna be a lot of code, so we're not gonna clutter this up. We're gonna try and follow good design patterns and make this more modular just by adding a different method here. So private void for now, spawn body or spawn corpse, whatever you want to call it. And so we're going to pass in the player that we're actually trying to spawn it for, so player P. And then once we get that player P, we want to get the NMS representation of that so that we can copy it over, so that we can use NMS rather to spawn the NPC like we did last episode. So we're going to do craft player from craft bucket, CP, or just call it craft player, is equal to P. Import that, and we're going to cast P into a craft player. By the way, have y'all tried the McRib from McDonald's? It's really good. I never had it until recently. It's really good. Sponsored by McDonald's, by the way. I wish. So then we're going to need a Minecraft server. So Minecraft server. And if you've already, if you remember this from last episode, you can skip ahead a little bit. I'm just going to pretty much copy what I did last time. So craft player .get handle .get server. And then we're going to need a server level. So server level is equal to craft player get handle.get level. There we go. So we're getting it from NMS. All right, so then from there, what we need to do is create a new NPC. So server player NPC is equal to, import that, and then new server player. So server player, as you remember, requires all these things that we just got. So server, level, and then a game profile. So we're going to need to create a new game profile. So game profile. Import that. Game profile is equal to new game profile. So we're going to need a new UUID. We're just going to copy it over. So random UUID. And then the name. So this name here, we're just going to set to the name of the person who died just for now. And later on, very soon, I'm going to show you how to hide that name using magic. All right. So once we have that game profile, we're just going to pass it in. And now we should have a new NPC server player object. And what's the problem here? It says server might be null. Should be fine. Yes, one other thing we want to do is set the skin for this NPC. So I'm just going to copy the skin over from before. I believe this is Notch's skin, Notch, the creator of Minecraft, like we did last time. So now we just need to set it. So game profile dot get properties dot put, and this property will be called textures. And then we want a new property. This is going to be textures again. And then texture of the variable, and then signature of the variable. There we go, so that should set the skin for the NPC. And then finally, now that we have the NPC actually made and all that, we want to make them appear on the server to every player who's around them, not just the player who's dying. That's what we did last time, we just made it to appear to one person. So to make it appear to everyone on the server, we just got to get all the players on the server and loop through them. So we'll do bucket dot get online players dot, and then for each we can just loop through each of these. So player, this is just a simple lambda expression. And so for each of the players we want to get the connection of that player, because we're going to send a packet to each player telling them that the NPC has spawned and other stuff like that. So you have to remember it's a crazy name. So server game packet listener implementation, we'll call it PS is equal to NPC, or not NPC, the player. So we got to do some fuckery here. Excuse my language. Craft player, not P, player, dot get handle, and that will get the handle or the entity, the server player object. And then from that server player object, we're going to do dot connection to get the server game packet listener implementation object. And we just need to make sure this is imported. Boom. So now that we have that, we can send packets to this player that we have here in this iteration of the loop. So we can do ps.send, and we want to send a new client bound player info packets. So client bound player info packets. It's not appearing here, but it's just there somewhere. See if we can get it to import. Oh yes, it's client bound with a lowercase b. There we go. There, import that. So now we got it. So within the client bound player info packet, we just want to pass in the action. So the action we're going to do is add player, since we're adding a new player to the server, and then the player itself, so just NPC. There we go. And then after that, we want to do ps send again and do client bound add player packet. Add player packet. That should be another one. There we go. Import that. Sometimes these suggestions don't pop up, so you got to be really careful. So we're going to just pass in NPC again, because that's all it's asking for. So NPC. And those two packets should add the player to the server. Very good. And then if you want to have them not appear on the scoreboard, you can send a third packet. So ps.send new client bound info packet. So the same one we just did a second ago. And then for the action this time, we want to do remove player. So you have to do it the first time along with this client bound add player info packet, or you have to do these two packets together. But then if you want to remove it from the scoreboard or the tab list rather, you have to send this first one again, but instead of adding it, you want to remove them, and that should remove it. So you're kind of just doing the same thing twice. We're adding and removing, but you have to do it like that or it's not going to work. So remove player, and then the player that you want to remove. There we go. And usually you could have some issues. So what you want to do is delay it by a little bit. This is just what people say you should do. I haven't seen any issues with it myself, but you may see issues. So what you want to do is delay it. So to delay it, we could just make a new task. This is currently asynchronous. This code is running synchronously because we're not using any asynchronous stuff here. So what we can do is make a new asynchronous task that runs alongside of it, not pausing the main thread of execution, by doing new bucket runnable run. And inside of here, we're just going to put the packet code itself that we just, oops, I just deleted it on accident. So cut that, new bucket runnable, run, boom. and that will run. And then now we can set when we want it to run by going outside and doing run task timer asynchronously. Or how about this one? Run task later asynchronously. So it's going to be a task that runs asynchronously, so it's not pausing main execution. And then we can set a delay for it, so it only runs when we tell it to run. So we need an instance of the main plugin though. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do actually constructor injection. So private player, and then the name of the plugin is just Bodied. So Bodied, there we go. And we can make a constructor for that. There we go. There we go. So now we can use Bodied. That's the instance of the main class or the plugin. And then the delay is going to be the amounts of time in ticks before this code here runs. So we're just going to set it to be 1 second from now. You can change this as much as you need if you encounter any issues with this. And then we're going to go here to spawn body, because we just set the code for this method, but we're not actually calling the method at all. So we need to do that, obviously. So player or just p. There we go. So now that we have this, I'm just going to recap it real quick. When the player dies, it's going to send them a message, and it's going to run spawn body. Spawn body is just going to create a new NPC, set the skin of the NPC, set their name, UUID, very standard, and then it's going to send these 2 packets here to spawn the NPC on the server artificially. So it'll appear there for the players that we're looping through. So we're just getting all the online players as a list of player objects, and then looping through each one using a for each loop. And then after that, after it sends these first 2 packets, it'll spawn a new delayed asynchronous task that runs 1 second later, which sends a 3rd packet, which removes the player from the tab list. So nothing too foreign so far if you've seen the previous 2 episodes. What we're going to do now, before we continue with this, is just go ahead and register the event and then test it out to make sure it actually works. So get server dot get plugin manager dot add listener register events. Sorry, my mind is going blank right now. And then this we need to pass into the constructor, and then this right there. Okay, cool. So looks good so far. So let's go ahead and run this now and throw it onto the server to see what happens. Okie dokie, I'm on the server now. So let's go ahead and do /pl, and it says bodied. So our plugin did load successfully, no errors. And now let's go ahead and kill ourselves to see if the NPC spawns. All right. So I think I'm going to spawn here over here. So we're going to kill ourselves, and we should be able to turn around and see ourselves. Oop. Looks like we got an error. I think I know why. So if we go back to our plugin real quick, in our death listener, in our spawn body method, we are creating a new game profile. So this is going to be the name of the player right here. And when we do get display name, that's all nice and everything like that. But we have to strip the color from it, because if we don't, we're going to have too many characters that we provide. So chat_color.strip color, and that should strip it down to just the characters of your name, no like color characters, anything like that. Because we got kicked from the server for trying to create a new game profile with too many characters. So we went beyond the limit, and that's a naughty thing. So let's try again and see if it works now. All right, I'm back on the server, so I'm going to do /reload. And got an exception, but I think we can ignore that. That's for something else, different plugin. All right, so we're going to do /suicide again. No errors this time, it looks like. Good. And there we go. We got our NPC. He's just standing there like a dumbass, but there he is. And so now what we want to do is try and figure out a way to make the player lay down as if they're a dead body by setting the pose of the NPC. So that'd be kind of cool to figure out. Not just for this plugin, but for any plugin that uses NPC, setting pose is really fun and cool to do. So to change the pose of the NPC, all we got to do is do npc.setPose. But if we do this, so pose, and we have all these options here: swimming, standing, spin attack, long jumping, fall flying, sleeping, crouching, and dying. All very, very cool. But if we set ours to sleeping, this is not itself going to do anything. It's not going to change anything. We have to send a player packet. We have to send a packet here so that the other players on the server see that the NPC has changed, right? Remember, this is all happening artificially, so even though you change this object here, these 2 packets here are not going to make it so that the player appears sleeping. You have to send a specific packet that tells the Minecraft client, from the server to the client, that NPC there, or the fake player, is sleeping or laying down, or they're in that pose, rather. So there's a specific packet for that. It's called the entity data packet, and it's not just for poses, it's for all kinds of other things we can learn about. So to send that packet, we can do ps.send, new client bound set entity data packet. And make sure you import that. There you go. Control P, and the first thing it wants is an integer, so you can usually assume that because we're dealing with entities, it's asking for the entity ID, so we can do npc.getID. That will give you the entity ID. Now we want the synced entity data, and when you're dealing with bucket spigot mappings, not Mojang mappings like we're using here, you're probably going to hear this referred to as data washers. I believe that's what that is, and you may see that term quite frequently, but in this, it's called entity data or synced entity data. So to get that, we can do npc.getEntityData, and that's going to just get the entity data, obviously. And then the last one, the boolean here is, I'm not sure what that is, so let's go ahead and pull up the documentation to figure out what that is. Let's see if I can find it. It's called client bound set entity data packet. So let's see if we can find it here. I believe I found the packet here. It's actually entity metadata, which makes sense. So it says updates one or more metadata properties for an existing entity. Any properties not included in the metadata field are left unchanged. So if you look at what a metadata field is, it'll give you some information like particle, MBT data, pose, which we're actually setting. So that's why I think it's this one. Yeah, you got other stuff. Position seems legit. But yeah, for some reason it doesn't have the third field, which is a boolean, which is it's asking for. So I'm not sure what that is exactly. If anyone watching has an idea what that is, please let me know. I forgot to figure out what that one is, but anyway, it shouldn't matter too much. You can just experiment with it, I'm sure. So I'm just going to set mine to true. So whatever that does. And so what this packet should do is take the entity data along with the entity ID and send that client bound set entity data packet to the client, and whoever receives it, which are these individual clients here, should see the entity as the sleeping pose, since that's the data being passed in, okay? So let's go ahead and test this out to see if it works. Okie dokie, I am back, so I'm going to kill myself again. We'll do it over here. And when I kill myself, it should spawn a laying down NPC. There we go, look at him right here. So, okay, I know why they're spawning right here is because that's the default spawn location, and we're not setting the position of the NPC when we create it. So we forgot to do that part. So yeah, looks cool. They're actually laying down now, and you can experiment with the other poses if you want to make them like crouch, make them swim, and all kinds of cool stuff. But let's go ahead and first of all set their position so they spawn where the player died, and also make it so that the name tag, which is here, does not appear to the players on the server, okay? So we're going to go back, and we're going to do, we actually know how to set the position. We did that last time. So we're going to do npc.setPos for position. And to set that, the easiest way is to just get the bucket location. So location, import that from bucket, location died is equal to p.getLocation. So that'll be from the event. So P from the event is the player who died, get their location. That'll be where they died. And so we can do location died.get y, location died.get, or did I say y? X, y, and then location died.get z. Perfect. So now they should be in that position. And this packet, these two packets here should take care of that. It should put them in that position automatically. Now, to make the name tag of the player not appear anymore, we have to do some magic with player teams on the server. So like in-game like teams, it's a mechanic. So I haven't done much with teams, but once you figure this out, it's kind of cool. So what we're going to do essentially is make a new team and then add the player, the NPC, onto that team. And then any NPC who is on that team will not have a name tag. There's actually a property you can set within the teams themselves that makes it so that a name tag will not appear. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a new team object. We're going to set some information about the team object, like an identifier and stuff like that. We're going to add the NPC to that team object. And then furthermore, we're going to make it so that their name tag does not appear. And then finally, we're going to send a packet, because we have to use packets to finalize pretty much everything, to make it so that the clients that are on the server know that that NPC is now on that team, or else they're not going to see any change, all right? There is teams packets that we can look at. So to do that, we're going to do player team on regular mappings, or the traditional mappings. It's not going to be called that. It's going to be called, I believe, scoreboard team or something like that. So player team is going to be new player team. First, we're going to need a scoreboard, so new scoreboard. You don't need to pass anything in for that. And then the name here, I believe, is just any, unique name for this team. And we can call this whatever we want. We're just going to call it, we'll just name it, we'll give it a UUID. How about that? So UUID.randomUUID.toString. Now that we have the team, we have to add players to it. So you can do team.getPlayers. And this, as you can see, returns a collection of strings, not a collection or a list of players. So each string in this collection here represents the name of the player who's on the team. So to add new players to this team, you have to add their username. So get players, and since it returns a collection, a Java collection, you can do add. So we can add a new string to that collection. And up here, when we create the game profile of the NPC, we set the username equal to their display name. And so if we were to add the display name that same display name that we used up here, down here, this means that the players who are on the team here, it won't just be the NPC, it'll be both the player who died and the NPC. So they're both not going to have a name tag, which is some interesting behavior. But we're just going to do that just so we can see that in action. So I think it's kind of a cool concept. So we'll copy this, paste it here. And then after we add the players that we want to have on the team, we need to set some rules for the team. So we can do team.set, and then we have all these different rules here and information we can set for the team. We can actually turn off collision, we can turn off friendly fire, or turn it on, death message visibility, display name of the team. But the one we obviously want is the name tag visibility method. So this is asking for what looks like a visibility enum. So if we do visibility, yep, it's an enum. So you have all these different enumerators. And then one we want is either hidden or never. So I think never fits better just because it says the name tag visibility. So if we want it to never be visible, we'll set it to never, and that should cover it, what we need. So now that we have created the team, we want to send that packet I told you about so that it appears, so that the client knows that that player, the NPC player, is on that team. Okay, so we'll do ps.send new client bound team, and as you can see, no suggestions are popping up for team packets. But before we even do it, let's go ahead and pull up the documentation one more time so we can see what's this team packet we're even trying to use. I like to look at it before we use it. So teams right here. And this one's kind of a big and intimidating packet, but it's kind of simple. The first thing it's asking for is the team name, which happens to be a string of 16 characters. So I hope our UUID does not go beyond that. Hope not. We'll find out. So this will be a unique name for the team. And then the next thing is the mode. And these are all the different modes we have. We have 0, so to create a new team. We have 1 to remove a team. We have 2 to update team info. 3 to add teams, or to add entities to the team. And then 4 to remove entities from a team. All right, sounds good enough. And then within each of these modes here, we have all this information we can set, which happens to be the information of the team itself. So name tag visibility, collision rules, color, prefix, all that cool stuff, the entities themselves, an array of strings. All right. Oh, this is good information. It says for players, this is their username. For other entities, it's their UUID. So that's actually really good to know for the future if we want to add other entities to this. So since we're creating a new team, obviously the one we're going to want is the create team mode, so 0. Let's go ahead and figure out how we can use that. So if we do new client bound and then control space, we're not seeing any, I don't think there's a team packet. At least I'm not seeing one, right? But I happen to know ahead of time what it is because it'll work sometimes for me, like I said before. So I happen to know already that it's the set player team packet. So set player team packet. And we'll just manually import that by doing Alt Enter. And it's not coming up, so set player team packet. It's kind of annoying that it does this, but usually restarting your IDE helps. There we go, import that. And if we try instantiating this, the constructor is just asking for a friendly byte buffer object or whatever that is, reference, whatever. Now, that's not very helpful, right? The whole reason we're even using NMS packets objects is because they're pre-made and they allow us to just pass in everything so easily. In this case, it's a little different. It's kind of weird it's kind of tricky to understand what it's asking for here. It's not asking for the information we saw in the documentation. So if we want to look more into this, we can hold Control and then click this, the name of the class itself. And then we can look inside of the source code here. Now, as you can see, it has the constructor that we just looked at a second ago, but it also has a regular constructor. So we can pass in what looks like the team name, the entity ID, and then all this other team data, which is what we need, right? But it's privated. It's a privated constructor, so we can't even use it. But if you look closely here, the things that can call this are these methods here, which are public static methods. So all these public static methods internally call the new privated constructor here. So if we want to use this private constructor, we can try using some of these static methods, which happen to be exactly what we need. So if you look closely here, the names of these methods are really helpful. So we have create, add, or modify packet. So to create, add, or modify a team, create and remove packet. So to create a remove team packet, and then create player packet to create a player, I guess to add a player to the team. I believe that's what that is. But yeah, these will be perfect for what we need, okay? So if we go back here, instead of instantiating a new client-bound set player team packet and trying to mess around with this friendly byte buffer here, we can just we'll copy the name here and try accessing these static methods. So client-bound set packet, set player team packet dot, and then we have these options here. So create remove packet, create player packet, or create add or modify packet. So we want to do add or modify packet to add or modify the team that we're passing in. And we can just pass in the team name. So pass in team, or not team name, but the team object. So pass in team. And this Boolean here, I'm not sure what that is. I believe, let's see. Oh, so it's a Boolean of whether you want to create a new team or update the team. So if you pass in true, this is going to be 0 for, if you remember from the documentation. Let me just pull it up one more time for you guys. So WikiVD protocol. If we go back to the teams packet, we see that 0 is to create a new team, and then I believe the other option is 2 to update a team. Okay. So if we pass in true, this is a ternary operator. So if we pass in true for var1, it's going to be 0. So mode is 0 to create a new team, and then false is going to be true, or false is going to be false, but it's going to be 2 as the mode. So update a team. All right. So hopefully that helps. And then these are automatically being set from the team object that you pass in. So it's getting the name of the team and then the data of the team right here. Okay, so we'll go back now. And the thing we want to pass in for this is true. So we're creating a new team. And if you want to update it, if you know that the team is existing already, of course you can just pass in false to update it. But if you want to make sure that the team does not exist before you create it, you can send a packet right before this one, which some people do. They do this. I said do. So client bound set player team packet dot remove, create remove packet, and then pass in team. So when you do this, it'll make sure to remove any teams with this name. So if we check the documentation for this, it's doing client bound set player team packet, getting the name of the team, doing mode 1, which is to remove a team, and then empty data. We don't need any data for the rest of it. All right. So yeah, this is just doing the job for you. So again, if you just want to make sure that the team you're putting the player on or the NPC on does not exist beforehand, then just go ahead and send this remove packet and that will do it for you. All right, so let's go ahead and test this out now to see what happens. And this will be helpful for the future if you want to make it so that players on the server cannot run into each other or push each other and other cool stuff. You can do a lot of cool stuff with teams I've been finding out recently. Okay, now let's kill ourselves over here. We should have an NPC in that location. Oh, fuck. It says the received string length is longer than maximum allowed, so 36 is greater than 16. So I was correct. The UUID is indeed greater than 16 characters, so we need to give the team a different name. So instead of using the UUID, we'll just set it to, how about we set it to the name of the NPC? Or, yeah, we'll just use the name of the NPC. That'll be 16 characters, under 16 characters for sure. So NPC dot display name. There we go. And we shouldn't have to strip that, I don't think. Okay, we're back on the server. Now let's kill ourselves one more time. Hopefully this freaking works, There we go. Perfect, look at him, he's right there. So we got a dead body spawned on the ground. It looks like a dead body with a no name tag. I happen to think the name tag looks better sometimes. It's better to have it just so you know who died. So like just imagine you're on a faction server and you come across a dead body and you see the name of the body, then you know who it is, right? Otherwise you'd have to assume it by their skin maybe. But that's up for you to decide. If you make a plugin that has this, dead body mechanic within it, then you may want to make that a config.yml option to show name tags or don't show name tags, all right? But either way, this is really cool, right? Okay guys, so one other issue that I forgot about is that we need to make sure that the team name is not the same name as the other player on the server or any other player. So if I have this account here and I have my other account, and let's say that I teleport to this guy. Alright, now they're next to each other, so I'm going to die right in front of him. And when I die, you're going to see his body, right, which will have no name tag. And then he will no longer have a name tag either, because the team name, when you add that name to the team, right, the players that have that name will be on that team. So they're both not going to have a name tag anymore. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So let me just adjust this. Boom. Boom. All right, cool. So we're going to kill ourselves now. So /suicide. And now his dead body's there. And then now look at him. He has no name tag. See? So hopefully that makes sense. So let's go back to the code. And the reason that is, again, it's just because when you create the NPC has the same name as the player on the server who just died. And also when you're adding the name of the player to the team, which is right here, you're just adding that same name. So both people who have that same name will have no name tag. They'll both be on the team. Now the way I'm going to fix this is I'm just going to change the name of the NPC. If you think about it, because the NPC is not going to be, the name tag is not going to be seen anyway, there's no point in having it to some random name, you know? So what I'm going to do is just remove this. And then instead of the person who died, I'm just going to make it an empty string, and that's perfectly valid. So then when I add the person to the team, I'm not going to add the person who died, their name. I'm going to add the name of just a empty string, or just a string with a space. How about that? Instead of an empty string. It's up to you what you want to set it to. You can set it to literally anything. All right. So now when the person dies on the server, they're going to spawn an NPC with that space name, and then they're going to add that NPC to that team. And then hopefully only that dead body NPC will have no name tag, and the person who died will, when they spawn, they will have a name tag. They will not be affected, and they will not be added to the team. All right, so let's see if that works. Hello, loser. Oh, and also make sure to restart the server so just everything's all fresh. All right. All right, I'm back. I have a name tag again, so I'm gonna kill myself /suicide, and there we go. My corpse no longer has a name tag, or doesn't have a name tag, and then when I spawn, I do have a name tag again. So what we did actually worked. Perfect. So just to recap, make sure that when you create a team and you add players to that team, the names that you're adding to that team do not conflict with any other person on the server, unless that's what you want. So just be wary of that logic, okay? But the problem, like I said before, is that if you die while you're in the air, the NPC will spawn in the air. So let me give you a demonstration of that. So we'll do /suicide. And now, as you can see, he spawns in the air, which is not good. So we want to come up with a very simple algorithm that determines the ground location. And there's actually a method within Bucket that it's called a get highest block or something like that. But that does not help us in this situation, because if there's a roof above this arena or wherever you're at, then get highest block will return the roof location, not the location of the ground below where they died, okay? Now, all we got to do to make sure that they spawn on the ground is iteratively get the when they die, get the location of where they died, the location object, and then use a simple loop to keep going downwards until you hit something that's not air, so a solid block. And then once you find a solid block, you can break out of the loop and then spawn them at that location, and they should spawn on the ground, okay? First thing I'm going to do is try and correct the Y of the location of the player. So we're going to do location died dot set Y dot location died dot, and we want to try rounding the Y to whatever we need to round it to. So to round it, I think we can just use the math library. So math dot round. There we go. So passing that and dot get Y. So the reason we're doing that, we have to round the Y, is just because when they die, it's not always going to be like a solid whole number for their XYZ coordinate. It can be like, 25.6 or whatever, like something like that. Unless you do something like, you could do, well, you maybe don't even have to round it. You could do location died.get block Y. So this will give you an integer, a solid whole number of the Y where they died. So we could do that. And so now that we have the location at which they died and the y is a solid whole number, we can loop until we reach a solid block. Because if they spawn in the air, or if they die in the air, that's going to be an error block. So we can say while location died dot get block dot get type is equal to material air, then keep going downwards until you reach a solid block. So while it's air, we can do location died dot subtract 0, 1, 0. So it's only going to it's simply going to remove 1 from the y coordinate. So just as an example, if they spawn in the air, that's going to be an air block. So it's going to say location die.getBlock.get type is equal to air. That's true. So it's going to do location die.subtract from 1 from the y. So it's going to go down, and it's going to do it again. Is it air? It's still air. Go down. Is it still air? Down, down. And then if it's not air, then it's going to break out of the loop, and then it's going to go to this line here. All right, I'm back. So we're going to do /suicide now. So boom, and respawn. And looks like they have spawned in the ground. So if we break these blocks here, there it is. There's our player. So the reason they're spawning in the ground is because our algorithm did work. It's just looping downwards until it finds the solid block, which happens to be the sandstone or sand that was here. But when we do this line, it's saying location die.get y. So it's getting that modified location from this. And that happens to be a non-air block. So what we need to do is do location die.get y plus 1. And that will put them right above that. So it'll put them on the block above, but since they're sleeping, it'll look like they're on top of it. So that's what we want to do for that. So let's go ahead and rerun this and put it into the server. Let's do it again. There we go. And they are now on top of it. Perfect. Now let's try doing it in the air, farther up. And look at that. They're on the ground again. Perfect. So no matter where we die, it'll spawn them on the ground block below them. So perfect. And that's all we got to do for this spawn body method here. It's just creating NPC, making it so that the NPC has a notched skin. It's making it so that it spawns on the bottom, on top of the ground by looping downwards. And then it's making it so that it has a pose of sleeping. And then it's making it so that it does not have a name tag. And then it's running all the packets here to set all the information for the clients that are on the server. So it's looping through each of those clients and then calling all these packets here to make sure that all that information above has actually been set and is visible for them. And then finally, within that, we're again setting this remove player packet, sending it so that they do not appear on the tab list, as you can see here. Now what is left to do is to take all the items in the inventory of the player who dies and then save it into the body somehow so that anyone who comes across it can get those items by hitting the player. And then if that dead body's never hit, then what will happen is that all the items that were, in that player, the NPC, will go back to the original player who died, and this NPC will sink into the ground and delete itself. But since this episode is running so long, it's a pretty long episode, I want to try making it a little more short. What I'm going to do is make a part 2 to this episode, so I'll show you how to finish all of those things I just described, and it'll be really cool. I got a lot of stuff in store. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it was informative with all the information I provided on how to do further things with NPCs. If you want to see more, then stay tuned for the next episode. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the description below, I'll leave a link to the code for this episode so you can check it out. You can bookmark it, come back to it later. If you forget any concepts or you just want to review the concepts I taught in this video, I'll mark everything up with comments so you can come back and read the code without having to rewatch the video, although your reviews are greatly appreciated. So yeah, I'll leave a link for that in the description below, so make sure to check it out. And another thing is I'll leave a link to our Discord server. It's a big community for programmers, so you can ask for help on your programming projects if you're stuck on something, or maybe you can get some new friends. If you don't have any friends, there's lots of people here. It's growing really fast. You can find lots of people who are passionate about the same things as you. For example, if you like Minecraft Spigot development, you can find lots of people who like that. If you like C++, if you like Java, if you like web development, it's a really, really big programming community. So feel free to join. There's a link for that in the description below. And the last thing I want to tell you is that if you want to support this channel, you can click the join button below this video and you can join this channel as a member for as low as 99 cents a month, and you can cancel at any time. You get some cool perks like early access to all of my new videos, a cool rank on my Discord server like you see right here on the side, YouTube members, and also you get to see yourself on the screen like you see right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. And thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's it. So if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. And peace.